Hi everyone, can you hear me? Nice. Thank you for coming. Really nice to see all of you here today. My name is Tatiana, and today I'd like to talk with you about where is the place of artificial intelligence in SQL query. And let's start from the introduction. I'm a CEO of DBeaver. Perhaps you know that DBeaver is a UI tool for working with databases. And it was born like more than 10 years ago, originally as an open source project. And it supports more than 100 databases out of the box. But even if we don't have your database in our list, you always can connect to your database through DBeaver if you have ODBC or GDBC driver. And the most valuable thing that we have is our big and friendly community. And it's a big power of the DBeaver project. Because when we implement something new, we got the feedback almost immediately. And it was like 4 months ago when we made a special plugin extension in DBeaver for working with OpenAI. And of course, since that, we have collected some number of feedback, like responses, use cases, and so on. And because of that, I have decided to show you what we actually knew about the OpenAI and with working with databases and how you can use it. And this boom about OpenAI was like a few months ago, and when everyone around talked about artificial intelligence and what exactly we can do with this, especially with the ChatGPT. So what tasks you can delegate to OpenAI. And people created, I don't know, marketing texts and emails and pictures and music, everything based on artificial intelligence libraries. And it was interesting that, of course, it wasn't would be impossible to avoid that people started to try it for SQL queries as well. And interesting conclusion here that I really got from different people like entrepreneurs or CTOs of different software companies and database vendors and so on. So what they saw, firstly, it was like a very high expectations and a lot of enthusiasm around this topic. So people started to try, they started to evaluate the technology itself, they started to try work with OpenAI or with other AI libraries to get some result with SQL. But after a very short period of time, some of them were really, really disappointed. And the main reason for that I believe that it's a very high expectations. So people thought that maybe it's like the good time when we can just stop to write queries by ourselves and just delegate all of this to AI libraries. Unfortunately, and it's a spoiler for my talk today, it doesn't work in this way. But how it works? Firstly, for this talk, I decided to make a simple experiment, especially for you, with the ChatGPT. You know, I opened the ChatGPT and tried to create a simple SQL statement based on my request. So my request was like, write a SQL statement to show all invoices from the database in Postgres. And as you can see, the result is quite good. I mean, the statement itself is quite simple, nothing special, but together with that, OpenAI suggested to me to use more particular statement as well. So put the right columns, and it even remind me that, hey, maybe you need to replace the names of columns and name of the table to the real ones. And actually the statement itself is good. I mean, if you run it in your I don't know, Postgres or MySQL database, it will work. The issues here is only that when we imagine that we will ask something from AI library, we will do this in a natural language. And in a real life, we don't ask the questions like, hey, could you write me a SQL statement? In most cases, people expect something like this. We say, show all invoices. And we get all invoices. So I made this stuff, so I asked to show all invoices in ChatGPT. And as you can see, I got absolutely the same result. So again, I got the same statement and some additional mention about the columns, and everything was absolutely the same. So here I can stop my talk because, as you can see, ChatGPT can solve all your issues with SQL statements. It does it very, very well. But unfortunately, it's not so simple because when I open the new chat and repeated the same statement, my result was like that. Unfortunately, OpenAI couldn't help me with my request anymore. And it told me that it needed information about my personal information, about the invoices, about some specific data, and so on. Why so? Actually, that's because there is a very important thing for any OpenAI library, and it is context. Context is really a key for all stuff related to auto-completion with OpenAI. And if I want to get something like select asterisks from invoices, from my request show all invoices, I firstly need to provide the context. Based on it, ChatGPT will give me an answer. And that's exactly what I did, actually. At my first experiment, I said that I want to have a SQL statement for the Postgres database. And if you open the ChatGPT main page, you would see this short explanation how exactly it works. And one of the points will be that ChatGPT remember what user said earlier in the conversation. So I firstly created the context, and because of that, I was able to get the right result for my request, show all invoices. And generally, it's more or less okay. But again, in real life, we don't need some general statements. We need a statement that will work in our particular table, in our particular database. And it means that we need to send the full context to ChatGPT to make it possible. And actually, what in this case is a context for our query? It's almost everything that we have. It's a database type, a database name, its schema name, and its primary keys, and the column names, foreign keys, everything that we have. And looking at that right now, we can say that, hey, if I need to send all of this information to ChatGPT to get my correct statement, it makes this almost impossible. I mean that really, if I know all of this stuff, it's much easier for me to create the statement like select asterisks from invoices and not explain all of this to ChatGPT. And because of that, actually ChatGPT is not a really good interface for creation SQL statements. But here is a very interesting point that ChatGPT is not only a UI for working with OpenAI library. OpenAI suggests us very different options and OpenAI model. And it's only one of them is ChatGPT. It also has Bing, like a search engine for Microsoft, and it has OpenAI API. So if you want to automate the process, it's much better to use OpenAI API, and that's exactly what we do in DBeaver. So we made the integration with OpenAI API to simplify the life of end users. So they don't need to send all of this information about the context. They can just write the real request that they have. So let's imagine that we do this kind of application. So what exactly we need to do if we want to send the request to OpenAI? Actually, it's quite simple. Just 5 steps. Actually, it's even 4 because show results and it's not like a step. But anyway, so you have to determine the context. You need to write a request, form prompt. Actually, it's a form that OpenAI model understands and get a response. That's it. So just a few words about each of these stages to make it more clear and obvious how it actually works. And of course, return to the context. Actually, I will repeat this word very often, like context, context, context. I don't want to like push you about that, but it's really, really important. It may be the most important thing that we have when we work with OpenAI model. So, and as you remember, we need to send this context to OpenAI, and more information, if we can send more information, it will be better for us because in this case, we can get the better result. We can get a more, like better query, build it query. But there are some limitations here that we need to remember. And these limitations is about tokens. What is token? Token is some kind of word. OpenAI told us that in one token, like in 1,000 of words, contain 750 tokens. It means that in very long word, you will have 2 or 3 or 4 tokens. In a short one, it will be just 1 token. And as you can see, the GPT version 3.0 can accept 8,000 of tokens. And 4.0 is like 4 times bigger, and it's 32,000 of tokens. And the numbers look quite big. But actually, they are not. I mean that if you will try to send all your database, all your schemas, all your system tables, all your keys, everything to, most likely you will just get the limit with the tokens very quickly. And because of that, it's impossible to send everything that you know about your database to OpenAI model. You need to determine where exactly you want to, like, on which tables, on which schemas you want to build your request. In DBeaver, by default, we send the, like, default schema, active schema. So, and in most cases, it work quite well. So it's not a big info and not less. But sometimes if the schema is too big, we can just cut it. Not the best solution, but it's help to avoid some situations when we don't get any result at all. And yes, you remember this word about ChatGPT, that ChatGPT remembers what you said before in a conversation. OpenAI API doesn't work well with that. We experimented with that a few times, and we decided that it would be better to send the context every time. So, and from my perspective, I really recommend you to do the same. So the next point is best one, because it's exactly what end users see. It's like how you formulate the real request to the model. And I love this part, because you can formulate it in any language, especially if you work in an international team. Someone will say, like, write in Chinese, another one in German, and the third one is on Spanish, and all of you will get the same result. And it's not necessary to be grammatically correct. And you don't need to think about the wording. Actually, you can say, I don't know, show all invoices. Give me all invoices. Can I get all information about invoices? Everything that you have in your mind, you can just send here. And that is the greatest thing about OpenAI, is that you can provide some hints. We will take a look at this a bit more intensively later, but just remember that it's possible. So if you see that your query is not really great, or it doesn't work, you can always help OpenAI to, like, give some additional information. So yes, and the next part is about prompt. What is prompt? Prompt is like completed query that you send to OpenAI model, that OpenAI model can recognize and can transform to something like to real SQL statement that you expect to get. And it consists of 4 parts. We have already talked about 2 of them. It's about context and it's about query. But after you provide the context and what exactly you want to get, you need to say the model what you want to do. I mean that in our case, it will be that we want to create a SQL statement. So we just write exactly this state, like, I want to create a SQL statement. And the not obvious detail here that OpenAI model work on a complementary basis. I mean that you give it a beginning of the phrase and it like completes it to like add the ending. So because of that, your task will sound not like just create a SQL statement. Your task will be create a SQL statement and start it from the word select. And after that, after you form this prompt and send it to OpenAI, you can expect that you will get your more or less fantastic query. And actually you will, or not. Yes, it can be like quite good built query from the beginning, but in some cases you will get errors. And from OpenAI, and on this stage, you will need to understand what was wrong. And actually, there are a lot of stuff that can go wrong. As I said, this screenshot is from our GitHub. So we got it exactly almost right after we ran our plugin for working with OpenAI. And I love this. Like, I was wondering how I can get rid of this error. And it was a comment from the user. And the error itself looks a bit, a bit strange. Because as you can see, it's like failed to connect, blah, blah, blah. It means that you don't have access to OpenAI server. And it's not like so stupid as some people can think that you don't have internet access. It's not like you switch off your internet and it doesn't work. The issues here in most cases is related to closed enterprise environment. What I mean that in the real world, when people try to use it in the company itself has some security policies and security protocols, and they have a lot of firewalls and proxies and so on. And because OpenAI is a third-party service, it means that you have to open the port to be able to interact with OpenAI. So don't forget to do this. Actually, it was exactly this case from the screen. And the next one is about OpenAI itself, when it is under a high load. Now it's much better because I had a very similar talk a couple months ago, and it was funny because then I told people that it's really nice to test OpenAI somewhere around midnight, because it's a good time when no one is there and you can test and get the result. Otherwise, you will get I'm sorry, we just cannot connect to OpenAI. So remember about that. I know that some premium users of OpenAI has additional can connect it better than just simple ones. But anyway, you can meet this issue as well. A couple words about the tokens. I had it on one of my previous slides that OpenAI is not free. So what does it mean? It means that you have to pay, and actually you pay for the number of tokens that you send to OpenAI. I cannot say that price is very high. It depends on model, and for some of them it can be $0.0002 for 1,000 of tokens. It's not like a high price. And for other ones, it can be like 0.008. That's also not a very big number. But anyway, it's not free. And when you register at OpenAI the first time, it's very, very simple. You just log in with your, I don't know, Google account or some other account and get your API token, your personal token, and you get the trial plan. And this plan includes $18, I believe. That is quite a big number. But sometimes people just don't realize that it's paid service, and after some time they just spend all this money and cannot continue to work with OpenAI anymore. So just be aware that yes, it's a paid, and you need to don't need to forget about payments for these bills. And we have already talked about come on, not this way. We have already talked about the number of tokens. But here I want to just highlight one more thing, that sometimes some models that we will use can be limited with the number of tokens. It can be not just 8,000, but maybe 2. And 2,000 is a really, really small number for database context. So be sure that you choose the right one. And of course, some models are not really good for SQL queries at all, and it won't, they won't give you a great result when you try to get something. But even if everything is fine, I mean that you send the right request, your account is good, your API token is good, doesn't mean that your query will be correct. I mean that sometimes we want to get the query with like joins, maybe a few joins in a row, and not always OpenAI will give you the right answer, like the right query for that. And here I have this lovely phrase about the asking the right questions is half the answer. And I didn't put the author name under this citation because, you know, it looks like all historically genius people told this phrase at least once in their life. But anyway, it's like 100% correctly for all questions for OpenAI. So you have to formulate your request quite precisely and to get the good result for that. Actually, you can see that in my situation, I said something simple like show all customers who rent film Agent Truman, something like that. And I got the like error that relation doesn't exist. But I have already said that the good thing with, the good thing with OpenAI is that you can provide some hints for the model. So because of that, I changed my request and add this information that actually the customer ID is in a rental table and ask to use joins. And after that, my query was generated correctly and it worked. So, and it's a point that actually you don't need to consider OpenAI as a replacement, someone who will do all your work. But it's more about how to simplify your life, how to make it easier to work with SQL statements. And a couple more words about unobvious limitations. Some of them, again, related to the number of tokens. And it's like the first maybe 3 points in this list, that if you have huge schemas, especially in your enterprise environment, especially if you work like enterprise databases, where you can have like 100,000 of tables in one schema, most likely OpenAI won't be able to help you because you just cannot upload all of this information to the OpenAI. And actually the same situation for the long names for tables and columns. I mean that if you create the names for columns and tables manually, it's not a big deal, but sometimes you use like additional like top layer on your database and automatically create the names. And in this case, they can be really, really long. And yes, it means that each name will take not just one token, but 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, any number. And you will just won't be able to upload all necessary information to OpenAI. Really the same story with analytical database, but from a bit another side, that in analytical database, you can have just one table, but hundreds of columns in it. So it also can work not really well for this kind of situation. So the two last points is about the OpenAI itself. Why is it important? Because, if you want to get something from artificial intelligence, you need to upload some data firstly, and just maybe like some kind of train the model. And unfortunately, if your database is really new, I'm not talking about the Postgres or about like MySQL, because actually OpenAI knows Postgres and MySQL very well. And moreover, it's not just know that they exist. When you send information to OpenAI that I want to get my query from Postgres, it already knows like that it has to use a Postgres dialect for SQL querying. It already knows that exists some special system tables, for example, PG catalog. And based on this knowledge, it creates the query. But if your database is absolutely unknown, it means that OpenAI will try to create something very general on a generic SQL language. And it means that most likely it can not really work with your database. And the story about NoSQL databases is actually connected with that because, yes, OpenAI use SQL dialects for creation queries. And for most of NoSQL databases, we don't have such kind of dialects. So it's very hard. It creates you some query, but it won't work. But you can try. Maybe for some databases. I at least checked it with just today. I checked it with Mongo, and no, it doesn't work with Mongo. It creates just in a regular SQL language. Yes. And a couple more words about models itself. As I said, there are models that are more suitable for SQL querying and that less suitable. And right now, the model Turbo 3.5 is the best option for all programming languages. But what can be not so obvious and what you need to remember, that especially for SQL querying, this model, like Turbo 3.5, sometimes it's a bit overthinking, if we can say in this way, talk in this way about the artificial intelligence model. Because it's like a good example here. So my request was like, show all information about documentary films with rating G. And the model created this select statement for me with joins, and it made a list of columns that we want to have in the result. And as we can see, DBeaver helped me here and say that I have a mistake in a column name. I don't have a film description column. Instead of that, I have a film descript. And I don't know why the 3.5 Turbo model decided to use this like list of columns, because I asked show all information. The easiest way was to say like select asterisk from blah blah blah, and I wouldn't have this kind of error. And actually, if we take another model like Text DaVinci 003, we won't have this issue. And my point here that if you need to experiment with different models, even if you work with the best one, it doesn't mean that it will give you the best result. Okay, when we just understood mostly everything that we want about the OpenAI, let's take a look about the most interesting question. What I can say that when we released the first version of a plugin for OpenAI, people, like community, immediately divided to two groups. One of them told us like, hey, why didn't you make this query option as a default option for querying? And another one just asked, hey guys, where is the button that I can switch off absolutely this plugin and never ever see this again? And no one from my users will use it. And mostly it was because security questions. And that's why we show this dialogue for all DBeaver users at the first time when they try to run OpenAI plugin and send this information to OpenAI that, are you sure that you want to do this? Because yes, OpenAI is a third-party service. What you need to know here that you won't send information like data itself. It's not necessary for like building your queries. Your data is absolutely safe. The only thing that you send is the metadata information. So all of this stuff related to database names, schemas, tables, structures, keys, and so on. And here it's an interesting question because, for example, if you use, I don't know, Salesforce database, and thousands of other people also use absolutely the same database with absolutely the same names of tables and columns, most likely it's quite safe to send this information to some third-party service because it's really common in general. But if you have something valuable, like maybe you develop your own database and the structure of the database itself is a big value, maybe you need to think about this more. However, if we take a look at the official statements on the OpenAI website about that, we can see that they don't send and don't use any information that you send to them, and they don't train the models based on this information. They don't use it in any other way. And actually, they delete it after 30 days. And you can trust them. You cannot. It's up to you. I just want to show you like how they talk about that. The thing that I also want to mention is about other alternatives. You know, when we see all of this hype around ChatGPT and OpenAI, and we can think that the tools that, like models that really good with general tasks, maybe not so good with specific programming languages and with SQL languages and so on. So I put just a couple of them as Tabnine and GitHub Copilot for like the examples of alternatives that exist right now. They are built like on top of existing AI models, and they like specialize in programming languages. Unfortunately, I cannot say that the result that they give is much like significantly better than OpenAI. In some cases, it's even worse. So I show you them. You can test them. I can say that for programming languages, they do a really great job. For, I don't know, for Java, for JavaScript, for, I don't know, C++ or something like that. But for SQL language, it's like, can be a bit, not so well. But you can test it. And finally, couple of words about that. Actually, why I started my talk from this high expectations and big frustration around the after using OpenAI. And I put this table from one scientific article created together with the Chinese scientists and scientists from MIT. And actually, it's not about OpenAI, it's about BERT, their open library, actually open source library for working like conversion text to SQL statements. And that work very well for big data, like big databases. And the most important thing here is really highlighted in green. You know that right now, human performance is much, much better than performance of any existing OpenAI models. And moreover, that we have two columns here, like with knowledge and without knowledge. And with knowledge, it's like when we get the first result, and after that we can fix it somehow. We can provide some hints or change the query itself. And as we can see, at least for now, people win this tournament, so they're better. But it doesn't mean that you don't need to work with AI at all. It just means that we need to consider AI like assistant, like someone who can help you. And instead of conclusion, I'd like to say that maybe the best use cases for working with OpenAI is like OpenAI is good for users who are not really familiar with SQL, but still need to work with data. I mean that maybe it's not a good assistant for DBAs who are like professionals with working with database. But I can say that in the modern world, much more people need to work with data. And it's not just software developers or it's not just DBAs. Sometimes it's people who just need to manipulate with data, like data analysts or like financial analysts or, I don't know, different kind of managers. And for them, this option is really great because I could say that I tried with no success to get some SQL statement that will broke my database. And like to make some operations that will be unsafe for the database itself. OpenAI didn't give me something like that. So it means that it's very good for people who need to work with data, who need to write simple queries. When I'm talking about simple queries, it's queries that not come like for creation, I don't know, stored procedures or triggers or something like that. It can be just select statements with 3, 4, 5, how many you need joins to get the good result. And yes, OpenAI works very well for well-known databases like Postgres or MySQL. And here is a funny fact, because if you try to play around the technology and most likely you will take the test database like Pagila, for example. And because OpenAI knows this database so well, in some cases it won't create joins for your request. It will use the IDs directly. For example, if you say like, hey, give me all films in English, it will not build a join with language table and say that, well, language ID equal 1, because it knows that 1 is English. So if you want to test it, try to take another database because it can be more visible for you. And of course, it's a good point to start if you have forgotten the SQL dialect. I mean that if you work whole your life with Postgres, it's simple. You know everything about that. But if for one day you just need to create the query, maybe for Oracle, oh my gosh, not for some other database, it can be a bit tricky, and you can ask OpenAI about the assistance for this task. And actually, that's it from my side. Thank you very much. I can show you like a live demo on DBeaver, or I can answer your questions. So it's up to you. Yes.
You mentioned tokens. What is the ratio of token corresponds to one query through OpenAI?
I'm sorry.
So you mentioned some API tokens,
Mm-hmm.
correct? So you connect, you get a number of API tokens, and you use them.
Mm-hmm.
What's a token used for what? Right? One token to one query?
No.
Does it work?
No, it works in this way. Actually, you register in OpenAI, and you get your token as a user. So each user, it's like your credentials to work with OpenAI. It's like instead of logging a password, you have this OpenAI token that you put. I can show you how it works. It's tokens, no APIs. So token, yes, you like. Just let me show you how. About the API token for working with OpenAI, it looks like that. But if we are talking about the tokens for the queries, so yes, every query consists of like the number of tokens. So you send them every time when you need to get something from.
Is a one-to-one, or it's a more complex query? You are going to use more.
Again, it's like you convert all your query to like a phrase. Like firstly, you put the context, and the context contains some number of tokens. Then you create your query, like show me all invoices, and then show me all invoices. It will be 4 tokens, and it will be depending on the like size of query. It will be different number of tokens. You don't know. No, you don't know. You can get some approximate numbers, but not exact. Any other questions? Yes?
So I work for a large company that's implemented our own internal version of ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
If we wanted
DBeaver
to connect to it, is there an option for that?
Right now, not, but we are working on the option to replace different models. Right now, we support only OpenAI, but we have this in plan to be able to switch between different models, including the like own like internal OpenAI models.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? No question. Oh, yes.
I saw on your first slides you said that it isn't aware of what's been happening since 2021. On your very first slide, that is one of the listings there where it said ChatGPT was not as aware of things past 2021.
It said limited awareness.
Limited awareness.
Limited awareness of events after 2021.
That was your very first slide.
Very first slide. Let's try to look at that.
Looking at the
You mentioned maybe under the limitations.
Because there's a lot of training involved in
I just got curious.
machine learning. There's a lot of training involved. Somebody spent a lot of money in training it up through 2021. How does that?
First slide 5. No. Okay, we can just look at this later. Okay. So, no questions anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you.